In this video, we are going to look at how you can use light touch to gently palpate and assess the comfort of your horse's TMJ. Now, as with all palpation techniques, there are many paths to roam with this one. And I find that because a lot of horses have experienced trauma around their head, I try to be as minimally provocative as I can. And in doing this, I will look for subtle signs of tension rather than be really grabby with my hands. You're going to start by putting your fingertips halfway along your horse's facial crest or their cheekbone. Now, I start roughly in line with their eye, but you can start right at the bottom of their facial crest if you like. All of it gives you feedback. Now, coining Masterson method phrasing, I'm going to use enough pressure to dent but not break an egg yolk. You may wish to just get your fingers in place and then pause for a beat to check in with your horse's comfort before you start. When you are happy that your horse is relaxed, you're then going to slowly glide it up along their facial crest towards their TMJ, whilst maintaining that egg yolk pressure. You're wanting to feel the skin lightly glide over the top of the origin of the masseter muscle. Now, this is where cheek muscle blends into the facial crest. Pay attention to the feeling under your fingertips. Sometimes your hand will get stuck, and this is more of an energetic feeling. So you might notice bracing in your hand or tension in your arm, and your fingers will kind of resist moving up the facial crest. And this tells me that there is restriction here. You may also feel that the skin doesn't glide very easily over the masseter, or the skin might feel crackly or lumpy or sticky. As you head towards the TMJ, notice if the temperature changes. Does the area get warmer? Maybe you feel a puffy or egg yolky texture under your hand, and this tells me that there is swelling around the TMJ. You may also notice that your horse's blink rate increases or their eyebrow muscles look a little tented. And equally, you might find that they twitch or flick their head away. And all of this tells me that there is a little bit of restriction in the area. When you have done one side, swap over to the other side and start again. You're going to look at each side individually. So just because you have restriction in one area on one side doesn't mean that you'll have the same restriction on the other side. And then you can compare the two, and then you can compare where the restriction is versus how that horse performs under saddle into the rein contact or any preferences they have turning from left to right. So we don't have too much reactivity as I get my hands on here, but then she sort of gets a bit distracted. We have an increase in blink rate. We don't have too much tenting around her eyebrows. We don't have too much tenting or reaction as we get up around her TMJ. And then when we swap sides, notice how her eye closes. So that tells me we are more restricted on the right there. And then she starts to sort of stare around a bit, and you can really see that tenting over her eyebrows. And then as we get up to her TMJ, she starts to get fussy. Could be a fly around her nose. But then when I go back and recheck, she's quite bothered by my touch there. And it also looks a bit puffier under my fingertips, and it feels a bit puffier under my fingertips too. So we've got more restriction on the right here. She gets a bit fussy with her mouth, so I always offer my hand to see whether they want to lick. It's kind of like saying, I'm here, I've got your back, I understand you're having a hard time. Gives them the opportunity to have a yawn if they want to. If they have a reaction like that, I will often step away afterwards and just give them a moment to process and feel the feelings that are coming up and help them to let go of that tension before I bodywork the area.